in the Middle East, in all the Middle East, because the war is getting bigger and bigger since it starts on March 1st until today, on February 28th, actually, until today. And today we are on March 16th. It's been 17 days of war. We have seen so many things happening on the ground, happening in the Middle East, from over 13 nations attacked by Iran. Also, Israel defending itself together with the United States in a very well coordinated plan and war that aims to destroy the Islamic regime capacity to attack the Middle East, to attack different nations, as we see that they do. So today we're going to discuss with one of the top Iranian experts in all the world, Beni Sabti, who grew up in Iran until 1982, if I'm not wrong. So he knows Iran. What did you say, Beni?
87.
87. So you've known Iran from the inside, but as an expert at INSS, you know also the strategic implementation and impact of Iran across the region, what Iran is capable to do, but also the vision of Iran. And I think that the big question today is, where do you think we stand after 70 days of war? We've seen an Iran capable to target, I think, over 2,000 targets in the UAE. The UAE suffer even more than Israel from Iran. We have seen Iran targeting even Turkey, NATO ally, which is very surprising. Cyprus, European Union ally. So can you tell us what you hear from inside of Iran after 17 days of war, what we have? And I think it would be very interesting to understand also if Iran, the Iranian regime, has still the power to control what's happening inside the country. And we'd love to hear your thoughts on that.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for having me here, Sacha, and all the organization. I really appreciate that. I go back a little bit to tell about how we came to the second war against Iran by Israel and US. This time it's all both of us are all in that war, and it's less than a year. In this year, if we count it a little bit differently, we have two wars against Iran in 8 months. So we come to that place because the Iranian regime didn't understand the message of the first war. We wanted to tell them or to make them understand that they cannot have nuclear power as a dangerous power. Of course, they can have nuclear energy if they are honest and they don't want to endanger all this region or the world. And they have to give up the terror program supporting the proxies or the terror organizations. I don't like the word proxy. It's a soft word for them. And of course, the missile program that again endangers all this region, and maybe someday also US or Canada or of course other European countries, as you said now. But the problem is that the war was stopped surprisingly immediately. President Trump thought that if he brings a ceasefire and force it on both sides, it can be much better and we can talk through the problems. But the Iranians, as I said, they didn't understand the message of the war. They understood that they can survive, they can do anything that they did before that, to go again with their missile program or terror program or of course nuclear program. There were some little small efforts. So we come to this war in end of February or beginning of March because of their behavior, because they betrayed kind of the trust of the world, the Western world. Israel knows about Iran regime for a long time, but it took a lot of time to convince the other countries, especially US, to bring US to do what we did in the first war. But it was not enough. We definitely would go to this war maybe in April, in May, but something happened in the middle of the way. The Iranian people protests, when it came in the end of December and beginning of January, it pushed Israel and mostly US to support the Iranian people that want to change their faith. They want other things, not the aims and goals of Iranian regime. They don't want that $1 billion of their money in the worst year that they had in all the years of the revolution. They didn't want that $1 billion from their country go to Hezbollah, and it was even much more than the other years. So we see that the Iran regime became obsessive, became messianic. They are so arrogant, and they didn't understand, like that war. They didn't also understood the message of the protest to be better with their country, to get rid of these terror organizations or those programs which doesn't have any profit, any benefit for the Iranian as a country or as a people. So they came out, they demanded their demands, if it was economically or other political demands. The regime, instead of understanding that, they killed them very brutally. They slaughtered around 36,000 to maybe around 90,000. These are the estimations of some Iranian human rights organizations. So we see that the regime is not giving up. He is not for its people. He is not for its country, but it's about surviving and helping again the terrorists and other brutal programs actually against Israel or against the West. So this is the reason that this war began, despite the negotiations even with US. And US, you have to know, the President Trump could accept any kind of compromise from the Iranian regime, but they didn't do any step toward the West, any symbolic compromise even. So we come to this war when we have the Iranian people beside us. We bomb and attack the strategic targets of the regime, if it's the missile program, the launchers, or the bases, or the nuclear facilities, what is left from them, and also terror organizations that are inside Iran and get help from them, and also targets that are about oppressing the Iranian people. This time we understand that we have to go against the regime as a whole. We have to bring it down, or at least weaken it to that place that the Iranian people can come out again and take their destiny to their hands and choose
And
whatever they
let's,
want
Benny,
to.
speak about that, because I think that after 17 days of war, from outside, and you have some
Yeah.
information from the inside, it's not clear where the regime stands. So there is an expectation of the world. And I think President Trump, Prime Minister Netanyahu also, they made it clear at the end, the solution will come from the Iranian people. So we haven't heard also from the opposition yet a big call to action, asking and requesting the Iranians to go out. So if you can clarify, in your opinion, it's too early. The Iranian people are still afraid. The Iranian regime is too strong yet. So where do you think we are at this stage of the war?
As I began to explain it, we are hitting the regime oppressing targets, IRGC bases, and those units who stand in the streets to stop the protest, the potential protest. Yes, the people are afraid from them, but more and more of these checkpoints are hit, and the Iranian people now have more hope than they had maybe 1 week ago or 2 weeks ago. They are very happy to see Israeli planes or American planes when they bomb those regime generals or headquarters. They are with us in that thing, and I think that they are almost ready to come out. But there is a problem with Iranian traditional education. They always wait for someone to tell them what to do. This is a huge problem because there is no leadership for opposition inside Iran. The opposition, some of the opposition are outside Iran. The crown prince of Iran, who was exiled in 1979, or maybe other oppositions. Some of them actually are not liberal, are not democratic. We don't want them back in Iran, okay? We want the good ones, and not because us only, because of Iranian people. Because if it's good for them, it's good also for us. There is no Hezbollah without Iranian regime, and no missile program or others. So we can go with their choice, and it will be very good for us. But the regime is not giving up. They try to stop with these checkpoints, with these Basij or IRGC guys, any potential protests. in these next days, we will have some festivals of the next coming year of the Iranians. So maybe we can see some new protests that they come out and they want to make their ceremonies. These are pre-Islamic ceremonies. So the regime is very against these ceremonies for many years. So if we see the Iranians come out and do a few actions, others can join them. There is also a local organization or some leaders, but they are not strong enough. Some of them were killed or arrested. So if we can also take care of some jails, or I don't know, some uh, another amazing
Yes, true.
operation, but by Israelis or by US, to bring them some hope, it can happen. But the Iranian people are in home, but they are not actually in their homes. They want to
Yeah.
be out, but someone has to tell them.
So it's not ready yet what I hear, and I would like to understand a little bit more what you hear about the way that the Basij and the Iranian army is protecting himself. And I saw this morning a report about a strike of the IDF on a school, Iranian school, where they had a very big crowd of Iranian military that are usually dealing with the protests. So my mind was directly, is Iran really help building Hamas strategy of human shield, using human shield? So what do you see in terms of how the Iranian military is protecting himself to not be targeted by the US and the Israeli army? And I think that we start seeing what we have seen both in Gaza, but also in Lebanon by Hezbollah, how they use the human shield. Do we see the same strategy that they are using?
Of course, they were the Hezbollah and Hamas and other militias teachers. They invented these methods and they taught them to take hostages since November 4th, 1979, when they took US embassy in Tehran with the hostages. Of course, they go to the tunnels under hospitals or schools or wherever it's a civilian place, and we don't want to bomb them. These are the Iranian methods, and of course we saw the motorbikes and also the trucks. These also are methods of the Iranian regime. Even I remember them since the 80s in Iran-Iraq war, to come with trucks and attack, if it was the Iraqis or their people. So we see the same behavior. Yes, they can resist the people, but the thing is that according to the Iranian regime polls, official polls, 90% of the Iranian people is against the regime. So it's a huge population. It's about 80 million against 9, 10 million of Iranians. So yes, the regime has the guns, the power, the money, and the propaganda, and it's more organized. But 80 million against 9, 10 million, it's huge. And if we bring them some organization to the Iranian people and give hope to some leaders inside Iran and maybe also outside Iran, we can help them to be brave enough to come and stand against those Basij and IRGC members. They actually, these IRGC members, they have their doubts also. Some of them sent their sons and daughters to the West, US, Canada, Europe. They have houses there. They don't want to lose everything. They don't want to be killed. So there can be also a change inside these units, inside IRGC, inside the Basij and oppressing units. So we have to just give a little bit more courage to the Iranian people to come out. I regret that we didn't bomb Iran regime in the middle of the protest. It was the best time, even it was if it was symbolically or small or something, but it was in the middle of the wave. We missed
That's
that time.
I don't interfere in that. I think that's what we see right now. It's a well-organized campaign from the US and Israel. I think that they've planned it very well, target after target, a very big what we call a banks of targets, in order first to defend the air force that is really day and night in the sky of Iran, and you cannot just risk human life so well. So we just have a Major General Tibon joined, and we have one more question before we can invite him to the conversation. So, and we haven't spoke about the Kurds in the north that are getting ready and armed also to help with the war. So let's imagine, and I think like last night we heard a statement both from the Israeli side and the American side, that it will take at least 3 more weeks of war. So during these 3 more weeks of war that they've been announced, I assume we're going to see many more Basij targets, IRGC targets, and will create a way for the population, the Iranian population, to start entering the war. It means going back to demonstration, getting some armament, I assume ammunition, to be able to take control. But at this point, when the Iranian regime will see that they may lose the control, which they haven't lost the control. Now we see they take very dramatic step by closing the Strait of Hormuz, trying to control the flow of the oil across the world, making change in economy. What will be the last resource that the Iran regime can use in order to tell to the world, back off, guys, you have played too much with us? Because we see they escalate time after time. Even in Israel, we see a different missiles have been targeted at our population. At the beginning was just ballistic missiles, and we have missiles explode around our heads and create like a multiple and multitude of explosions. So what do you think will be the last resource that Iran will use? And then we're going to move to Major General Tibon has been waiting with us.
I think that we saw all the Iranian regime cards already, and I cannot imagine any more weapons or ways to harass or take us as hostages. Closing Hormuz Strait of Hormuz, it's also another kind of taking us as hostages or price of the whole oil. But you have to remember something about the Iranian regime cards. It's always only one plan. If we are afraid against these actions and we give in to them, so yes, they win. But if we can have a little bit more patience and we can be in a very better place, as their leaders said, in 2 weeks or even maybe 3 weeks, I think it's the maximum. Because Iranian people are not, as I said before, this is not Gazans. These are not the Palestinians in Gaza Strip, and they don't support the regime. So, and the regime is also already shooting them. It's so earlier than what happened in Gaza. So if we have this patience and we can go in this, I call it surgery. We are yes, if we have a little bit pain with the oil prices or other or missiles that are thrown to us, but we have a good defense. But if we have enough breath and enough patience, they don't have enough cards and good cards in their hands. So I think we can go on with that and there will be a change. The Iranian army, for example, for the next year, they didn't get enough budget. IRGC is taking all. So if we go on with that and the army is also unsatisfied with the regime, they can join, like what happened in the revolution in 79. They can join the people. They can be their leaders. So we have to be a little more patient with this surgery. We are just taking that medicine or giving the region that medicine to get rid of this
Yes.
tumor of Iran
No,
regime. And
Benny,
also the
before
Arab
we
countries are very suffering. So we are in this together.
yes. So Benny, before we move on to Major General Tibon, I have 5 questions about who you are and what language you speak, because some people are asking about your accent. So I'd love for you to share in 2 minutes a little bit of your background. And as someone has grown under the Islamic regime, what are your hopes for Iran as an Iranian yourself?
Okay. Some think sometimes that I'm Argentinian, but I'm not. As you said, I was born in Iran and I saw the Iranian Revolution in 79 as a 7 years old boy. And also taking the US hostages. I remember that day very clearly because it was very close to my father's office. And we had 8 more years of oppression, arresting girls just because of their hairs, beating us because of my long hair or a nice shirt or many other things that happened to them. So to us or many others, of course, the Jews suffered more because we are also Jews and we are a minority. So they had the right to attack us much more than the Muslims. And after 8 years of that oppression and also Iran-Iraq war, actually I saw my first missiles in Iran. So I'm kind of used to that. We ran away from Iran by foot. It's a very long story. Maybe it's for a better
For
day.
another one, yes.
Yes. and I'm here in Israel since the age of 15, and school, army, researching about Iran and trying to pay them back. This is my job.
Good. Thank you, and good job for what you do. And definitely, we hope to see a better future for the Iranian people and for where you're coming from. So I'd like to bring on Major General Noam Tibon, which I'm very, very happy to have. Today we had some technical issues, so I just want to make sure that you can hear us, and let's just hear your voice before I do introduction.
It's a pleasure to be here. I hope you hear me well.
Yeah, it's great. So thanks for being, and I think that it wants a little introduction when you have someone like you joining this type of briefing, because Major General Tibon has been serving the IDF for 35 years in many positions. He was the head of the Nahal Brigade where I served, so it's an honor to have one of our commanders, but also the head of the West Bank Division, which is the day-to-day terror in Judea and Samaria, the Northern Formation, which is responsible for the northern border of Israel with Lebanon as a general in the IDF. So you know a little bit what's happening in Israel, the military operation, the war as well. But also you have been a hero of October 7 by driving on October 7 when the war started to Nahal Oz to rescue your son, his friends and others. So thank you for your service. And you recently launched a movie that is right now in the US and different places about your experience of saving life on that day. So I think it's worth for anyone that is watching the briefing to type your name online, and I did it yesterday, and you can see the movie that you have produced about what happened on that day. But I would like to start with a more complicated question. What's happening in the northern border of Israel, in your opinion, these days? As you know very well, Lebanon, the Lebanese government, we saw and we heard different statements recently about Lebanon ready to move into a conversation with Israel to do a peace agreement. Maybe that was kind of something that no one will believe. Then we see Hezbollah leaders saying that will never happen. We saw today a lot of military forces entering the southern part of Lebanon. We see massive fire from Lebanon to the northern part of Israel. On Friday, I think they plan to fire 600 rockets, 200 rockets were fired at the northern part of Israel. So we still see a big war in the northern part against Hezbollah before we deal with Iran. So I love a little bit of your thoughts about the situation right now in this part and the relationship that still Hezbollah has with Iran, because we see coordinating fire between Iran and Hezbollah at the same time to disturb the defense system of Israel. So I love if you can start with this part.
First of all, it's a pleasure to be with you. And if you are from the Nahal Brigade, it's
Yes.
a double pleasure.
Thank you.
Okay. Hezbollah is the strongest and biggest proxy that was built by Iran on the northern border of Israel in order to protect Iran in any case that Israel will attack Iran, mainly regarding the nuclear program of Iran. You know, we tried in Lebanon almost everything. I joined the IDF on 1981, 1982. We started the first Lebanon war when I, as a young soldier in the Special Forces, Sayeret Matkal, you know, we occupied half of Lebanon all the way to Beirut, include Beirut. And then we stayed in a security zone for almost 20 years. So I went all the way from a fighter all the way to a battalion commander in the paratroopers in this security zone. And I lost many soldiers in those, battles against Hezbollah, which is a very organized terror organization. The situation that Hezbollah created based on the Shia population, which is the biggest population in Lebanon, is basically a state within a state, which means Hezbollah is controlling parts of Lebanon like southern Lebanon, the Bekaa, and the Dahya neighborhood in Beirut. And Hezbollah is playing also as a political party. And most important, Hezbollah has the strongest military force than the Lebanese army. So this is the situation, and they were led by Hassan Nasrallah for many years and caused a lot of damage to Israel. I think right now, when you look at the situation of Hezbollah, Hezbollah is in a very, maybe in the weakest point, which I remember in my lifetime, because they don't have the background of Iran anymore, which mainly billions of dollars. They don't have all the logistics that was in Syria for many years, because Syria is now in other hands, and they hate Hezbollah. And they don't have the right leadership. I think Qasem Naim is not Nasrallah. And at the end of the day, the goal of the state of Israel is very simple, that we will have in our northern border one state, Lebanon, one army, the Lebanese army, and a quiet border. And the situation is complicated when you look at the kibbutzim and Kiryat Shmona, all the villages along the border. They were evacuated for a year and a half. And then, on the ceasefire with Hezbollah, they came back. They started to rebuild their life. And then, the fire started again. So if we want to protect our northern border, and we want that people will live there, because this is the meaning of Zionism, that we are living along the borders, in the north, in the south, all over. Basically, we have to create security and to give them priority in almost everything, health, education. I have a lot of, a huge vision how you can flourish the north. But right now, those people are again, in shelters. And I think the goal of the state of Israel is to solve the issue that they can live in full protection.
Yes, thank you. And about the statement about that we see these days of the Lebanese government willing to discuss with Israel, is it something real that we see, or someone is trying to win time? Because it's been very surprising, even as an Israeli myself, to see the Israeli government, the Lebanese government making a statement, we are ready for negotiation. Then we see that the voice within the Lebanese voice are totally against. So can we see a different Middle East in the future, at least this part, in the northern part?
I think there is a big change in Lebanon because Hezbollah now is very weak, and Iran is weak, and later on I will have few comments about the war with Iran. And I think the government of Lebanon understands that if Hezbollah will take the whole state of Lebanon to another circle of violence, it will destroy them. And Lebanon is a beautiful country for tourism. And basically, this is the first time that we hear those voices. Unfortunately, the Lebanese army is not strong enough to unarm Hezbollah. And that's why I believe that what we need to do right now is to create a zone that will protect our kibbutzim, moshavim along the border inside Lebanon, on the one hand. On the other hand, to bomb Hezbollah as strong as we can, to destroy them, to kill the leaders, to take all their assets, mainly the rockets, and then to create some kind of coordination with the Lebanese government that at the end of the day, Lebanon will be one country, one army, one border, because we don't have border problem with Lebanon. This is the same border since 1948. Yeah. And Lebanon without Hezbollah will be a much better country for the citizens of Lebanon and for the people of Israel.
It sounds like we are living in a world today that we have a similar situation between the operation in Lebanon and in Iran, when we have a population ready to take back their country. We have a government that doesn't know what to do on the Lebanese side, and we have an alternative government ready to get into Iran, but we just need to take out the terrorist groups, which is in one hand IRGC and also Hezbollah. So hopefully for both nations, we're going to see a different future. Now, let's speak a little bit about this Iran Hezbollah connection, because we still see that they're firing rockets at the same time. Israel has been really in a defense system doing an incredible work. So if you can address how Hezbollah and Iran are still working together and how we defend ourselves and we protect our population against these double threats that we have right now. And if you can add to this layer also the proxy of the Houthis that we haven't seen entering the game, is it a card that the Iranian will use later on in the war, or why we haven't seen yet the Houthis attacking Israel in simultaneous attacks with Iran, Hezbollah, to really harm our country a bit more, or to harm the Americans that are in the region as well?
First of all, about the campaign in Iran. In terms of Israel, basically, we started the campaign with three main goals. Number one, and the most important issue, is their nuclear program, to shut it down completely. Number two, to destroy the ballistic missiles assets that they have, not only the ballistic missiles, but also all the factories and everything, that it will not, it will not hurt Israel anymore. And number three, to change the regime. After almost 3 weeks, we, and let's say it was a very good campaign by the IDF and the American forces, and, I salute the American forces, the brave American forces, and I salute, the American soldiers that lost their life in the war. Unfortunately, the picture is unclear, because when you look on those three goals, in terms of the regime, I think that the first attack was fantastic, but it seems that the regime still have the besiege, and they are still controlling Iran, and they don't facing real oppositions, and people are not in the streets. And right now, it never happened in the history before that, without boots on the ground, you can change a regime. And right now, unfortunately, the regime is holding. In terms of the nuclear program, and this is something which is very important, we have this 60% uranium that is very dangerous, something like 450 kilos in some, some in Isfahan and some in other places, mainly in the ground because of the bombs. And I believe that if we will not finish the war, that this uranium is out of Iran, it's still very dangerous, because from this 60% to go all the way for a bomb, it's mainly not a difficult process. And that's why this goal is not achieved yet, and it's complicated to do it, because two options. Number one, in some kind of agreement. Number two, boots on the ground, which is, in some places in Iran. And I think that regarding the ballistic missiles, basically where the air forces of Israel and the US is doing tremendous job, but still they are shooting on Israel. And basically the life in Israel right now is, we don't have schools. The economy is not running. People are, running to shelters all day long. And the only proxy that, work with Iran is Hezbollah. There were two more proxies, one in Iraq and one the Houthis, which I don't have the real understanding, but they are not working with Iran. I think the Houthis, maybe they keep it for a surprise, or they are still afraid because we killed their leadership. So, and it's important to say one more thing, that in my eyes, the doctrine of Israel should not be long wars. So, and the war in Iran basically is running by the United States, and mainly President Trump will take the decision what to do and when to finish the war. In Lebanon, I believe it's in the hands of Israel. And at the end of the day, I think we should, bomb Hezbollah as much as we can in order, at the end of the day, to create some kind of agreement with Lebanon that will bring security to the northern part of Israel. But we cannot finish the war if they don't feel safe at home.
And I think that what you said now is really well connected to what President Trump said, I think 2 days ago, when he said, I'm not ready to negotiate yet. Iran, the war is not ready to negotiate it because he has in mind the nuclear threats and he knows, and he spoke about it himself, that we need to bring back the nuclear from Iran or to negotiate that it will be given back. And until he doesn't see, and as you say, he's managing the war, that Iran is ready to discuss that, so he's not moving. So now it makes so the statements of President Trump and what you said makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I want to explain a little bit about what Iran is trying to do.
Yes.
Basically, Iran, they were surprised. It's a first day, but once they understood how difficult is the situation, basically they are doing two things. Number one, their number one mission is, the regime. So they use every force to protect the regime and to, kill and threat their own people, that they will not go to the streets. Number two, basically they want to shut down the world economy, mainly the oil and the Strait of Hormuz. It's all to put pressure on the United States and on the world to stop the war because of economic crisis. And that's why they are attacking, the whole region, Saudi Arabia, Abu Dhabi, Qatar, countries that were in good relationship with them. They are attacking them in order to shut down the economy. And this is the same issue with the Strait of Hormuz. And basically, it creates a lot of problems to the world economy. And Iran is trying to create an attrition war against Israel and against the world in order to secure that at the end of the war, the regime will stay alive.
Yes, and we hope that it won't be the case. And Iran, let's not forget, in the Iraq war, they went for a war of almost a decade. And they know to learn long war and not short war, while Israel and the US is looking for short war. So I think that Iran is playing a long-term game here, and we try to cut them the strategy. And it looks pretty after 3 weeks. I have to say that we see the number of targets in Iran. The military campaign has been extremely well organized in terms of casualties, very well focused and very interesting targets. We have one question because we're going to need to end on time. But one of the questions will be, what is the impact of the fall of Iran or even the status right now on Hamas, who's been a key proxy of Iran, a key acts of Iran within almost Israel in Gaza. So I'd love to hear your thoughts on that. And maybe since we haven't heard about Gaza for a while in the news, in Israel we hear, I think that recently we see more Hamas operation in Gaza, maybe a short update on the Gaza structure and what's happening right now over there.
Basically, Hamas, Iran supported Hamas by millions of dollars every year. There is a difference between Hamas and Hezbollah because Hamas are not Shia, they are Sunnis. We have to remember that the majority of the money to the Hamas came not from Iran, but from Qatar. Unfortunately, right now, Israel is holding around 50% of the Gaza ground. And most of the population is still controlled by Hamas, and Hamas is gaining power again. We are, in that case, we are waiting because unfortunately, and I think it's a big mistake, the keys are not in the hand of Israel. The keys are in this peace, let's say, organization that President Trump built in order to rebuild Gaza. And the situation today is that Hamas is not attacking Israel on a daily basis, but it definitely still controlling Gaza Strip, still controlling the people, still arm himself. And this is, again, Zionism mean that people will live all over Israel. And we have to give security to the people in the south, especially after what happened on October 7th, which I believe was the biggest failure in the history of Israel. And I was there. And I really recommend all of you to watch the movie The Road Between Us, that made on my family and the brave people of Kibbutz Nahal Oz on that dark day. And still, it's not, the problem with Hamas is unsolved yet. And right now, I believe that we need, one of the main issues in Israel is we need a stronger military force. We need more soldiers because we need to protect this land. And it's a huge issue in Israel that, we need, in my vision, that all the ultra-Orthodox will serve as well in the IDF, because we have to protect our northern border. We have to protect against Lebanon. We have to protect the Golan Heights against Syria. We have to protect in the West Bank against the Palestinian, and of course, long borders with Egypt and Jordan, which are quiet, but we need soldiers there, and of course, the Gaza envelope. And that's why, the IDF and Israel should be strong for many years. And I think that the way that the war with Iran will end definitely will affect the whole region.
Yes, we hope so, and I think that it's a positive impact on the region. We have seen the Abraham Accords that allow to create relationship between Israel and Muslim nation like we never believed before, and still with the interference of Iran in the region that was pretty not happy about that. So without an Iran, I think the whole region can be a place of peace, and I deeply believe in that. So let's hope for.
I believe in peace, but I believe before in strong Israel.
In a strong Israel, and I think that it's not a strong Israel just for the Jewish people. I think it's for the world. We see when Iran can close the Strait of Hormuz, can take decisions, and I think Israel, as the only democracy in the Middle East, is playing a role of keeping a full region, an important strategic region, peaceful and bring a good stability for the world. I always say, just imagine the region without Israel, how it's going to look like, and we can see it in Syria, we can see anywhere. When you don't have a strong democracy, that a strong army like Israel in the region, we have terrorist organization growing, instability in the government. So I think that the strong Israel is the interest of the world. And thanks to the US president to understand that and to supporting, I will say, the country, the people, and work very closely with our government, which is pretty incredible to see that. I like to end maybe when we have someone like you and we experience on October 7, if you can share in a few minutes your experience on October 7. That's outside of the scope of the briefing, but as an Israeli, that you are one of the heroes of the day. And I think that a lot of people could see you as an hero as well. And thanks for your service. So I invite everyone to stay a few more minutes in the briefing. That is not a strategic briefing about the region, but about the personal experience of Major General Noam Tibon, that on that day decide to come there and to play a role that is unique. So if you don't mind to share with us a little bit of...
it's a long story, but I will make it short. I live in Tel Aviv with my wife Gali, and our oldest son Amir, which is a journalist, decided to live along the border in Kibbutz Nahal Oz, which is the closest point to the Gaza border. On that Saturday, we woke up in the morning in Tel Aviv. We went to do some PT in the beautiful beaches of Tel Aviv. 7:15 in the morning, we got a text message from our son Amir that they have terrorists in their neighborhood in Kibbutz Nahal Oz. And immediately I understood that I have to go there because, this is my duty as a father and a grandfather. Amir and Miri have Galia and Carmel. Galia 3 years old and Carmel 1.5 years. And basically, my wife and I immediately decided to go there. I spoke with Amir, only one phone call, and I told him, to close everything, doors, windows, everything, to go to the safe room, to lock the door from the inside. And basically, I said that I will let the IDF know, and because I was not aware how big it is. When I came home, it was the first, decision. I served 32 years in the military. And, I need to support the IDF, but something in my heart, something in my gut feeling told me, no, you have to go. So immediately I took my pistol, which I have in license. I didn't even wear uniform, which I have one pair. And 1 minute before I'm leaving, my wife, Gali, told me, no, let me drive for you. And this was a very good advice because it's always better to work as a team. And we are driving. 7:30 in the morning, we got another text message from Amir that they are shooting on the house, and he believes that there is a terrorist inside his house. And he was not mistaken because 150 terrorists attacked Nahal Oz. And we have footage, images from the helmets of the Hamas fighting on my son porch. One wall distance between them and my whole family. And Amir's mission was to survive, and our mission was to bring forces to Nahal Oz. We were driving very fast. Since Ashkelon, it was very, very interesting. We were the only vehicle on the road, and I thought that I will meet a lot of forces. And this was strange. We met the war near Kibbutz Nir Am when we saw something that would look like a movie, a police car blocking the road and a white pickup coming towards them with a machine gun, and they were shooting like hell. We stopped aside, we thought what to do, maybe to go through the fields, but in 1 second, a young couple jumped into the road, and they were almost killed in front of us. So immediately we understood that we have to save them. Bar and Lior from Oranit. We brought them to our car. We asked them what happened. They said they were in a festival. Terrorists came, they slaughtered everyone. They tried to escape. Terrorists were after them, and they were hiding in the bushes, and basically they heard us. Immediately we understood that this is the mission, to rescue them, and we are now doing a U-turn and taking them all the way back to Ashkelon. And now we are trying to go from a different road, 232 road. We come to a police checkpoint. They don't let us go. We don't have connection with Amir. And basically we understand that we have to do it alone because nothing was working. And we bypass this police checkpoint. We go through another police checkpoint, which was very dangerous. And basically around 10 o'clock in the morning, we were at Shterot Junction. And let me tell you something, I was a combat officer all my life, so I saw bodies. This was part of my profession. But I never saw something like this in my lifetime, full of cars, upside down, burning, and it's all full of bodies. And I'm talking with my wife, and I said, Gali, this is very dangerous. And then my brave wife said, Noam, if I would tell you about a couple, not us, somewhere in the world, 10 kilometers from the kids have terrorists in their house, and it is very dangerous. What would you advise them? And this became a rhetoric question. Basically, we decided that we are going. Gali is maneuvering between bodies. And then we go all the way to Mefalsim. I will not say, it's a long story, but in Mefalsim, basically, there was a huge battle, and we waited there. And then a force came, and we asked for help. And one brave soldier by the name of Avi said, I'm willing to help you. I was under your command during your time at the West Bank Division. And I said, great. We left Galil there alone, and now we are driving, Avi and myself. It's the entrance of Kibbutz Nahal Oz. We meet a force of paratroopers. And basically 1 kilometer from the kibbutz, suddenly we heard shooting again. And basically we saw a military jeep that got into an ambush by Hamas. Immediately we jump. I shot one bullet with my pistol and it was useless. And basically on my left hand side, there were 2 wounded soldiers. On my right hand side, there were 3 brave officers that were already killed. Chen Buchis from Ashdod, the deputy of Maglan unit, Iftach Yabetz from Ramat HaSharon, and Afik Rosenthal. And I was fighting for my life. And basically I took I did what I learned in the basic training. I took the helmet and an M16 from Chen Buchis that was already dead. I killed 2 terrorists. And the brave soldiers killed the rest. We killed about 8 terrorists. And the road was open to Nahal Oz. And all I wanted is to jump on my vehicle and go to Nahal Oz. And then we heard an officer said, I'm wounded, I'm wounded. Now I know that his name is Yedidia from Jerusalem. And he got a bullet in his belly. And he was bleeding, bleeding, bleeding. There is something which we call the golden hour in the IDF, which if somebody is severely wounded, if you take him in 1 hour to the hospital, 80% he is alive. If you don't take him, 80% he is dead. And this was the situation. And the soldier said, can you evacuate him? And this was a huge dilemma because I was already evacuated people and, but I look at his eyes and I cannot leave him there to die because I'm not leaving any wounded behind me. This is one of the main values of myself and the IDF. So I said, throw them on my jeep. I evacuated those 3 wounded, basically on Mefalsim. I told Gali, take the vehicle with them, and my brave wife basically took them and rescued their life. And now I wanted to go back to Nahal Oz, and before she left, Gali said, go with Israel. So I saw another car there. I opened the door, and this was my commander, another Major General, retired Israel Ziv, which you can watch him on TV a lot. He came to help people. I said, I'm talking now about friendship. I said, Israel, can you take me to Nahal Oz? And he said, of course, jump. And we are going to Nahal Oz. And basically, we are meeting again those few officers of the paratroopers. And 1:15 p.m., we are at the gates of Nahal Oz, and we are the first military force in Nahal Oz. The paratroopers are running to the military post that was burning. And basically, a few minutes later, 2 forces came, Maglan and Sayeret Givati, elite units. And I joined them to the kibbutz. And I was very afraid from friendly fire because I was different from the soldier. Said, give me a shirt, give me something. And the soldier said, we don't have. And then one soldier said, I don't have a military shirt, but I have a military tzitzit. I hope you know what does it mean, tzitzit. So I wore this tzitzit, and basically it saved my life. And I was fighting with the brave soldiers to occupy the kibbutz. We killed more than 30 terrorists. And at the end of the day, around 4 p.m., I left home, 7:30 in the morning, I saw my son's house. And I'm telling the soldiers, let me go first, because we went from house to house to house. It took a lot of time. And I'm going to the armor window of the safe room, and I'm knocking on the armor and said, Amir, the Abba, it's dead. And then I hear this beautiful voice. My little granddaughter, Gadia, said, Sababa, Grandpa came. And of course, it was a great moment. But we were still in the middle of the battle. Thank God, the brave soldiers of Maglan and Sayed Givati did a tremendous job until we arrived. This kibbutz lost 15 people and 8 were kidnapped to Gaza. And there was a hell of a battle in the kibbutz. The brave soldiers killed 30 terrorists. And around midnight, we evacuated about 400 people, alive people from the kibbutz. And if there is something which I'm very proud that on that day, I didn't leave anyone behind me. Everyone who I met, the people from the Nova Festival, the wounded soldiers, and of course the people of Nahal Oz, I saved their life. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Major General Tibon. I think that no one behind, I think, is the statement, the way of life of Israel. We're a small nation, small country, and we don't leave people behind. And I think that's a very important message. Thank you for sharing that. I think that if people forgot why we launch a war against Hamas in Gaza and why Gaza looks like it looks today is because of that. And I think it's a good reminder that Israel is confronting enemies in every borders. Each one of them is different, and each one of them tries not to attack Israel, to destroy Israel, to kill as many as possible civilians. We see today with the Iranian missiles, they're targeting civilian population. There is a new app that you can see how long you spend in your bomb shelter. But I spent over 26 hours in my bomb shelter in 17 days because their missiles are targeting our homes, our places. The same with Hezbollah, the same with Hamas, the same with the Houthis. So we have a duty to protect our country. And thank you, Major General, for speaking today. Thank you very much. And I'm sorry to the participant. I didn't plan to go in a personal story, but I think I see everyone staying
It's
online.
okay. It is my pleasure, and thank you for all the help and the support for the State of Israel.
Thank you, Major General.